Hey everyone, thank you so much once again for tuning in to the Economist Podcast. And today we're going to be talking about the X-Men that made the ultimate sacrifice but doesn't get enough respect. Who's that? John Proudstar, aka Thunderbird. Thank you everyone for tuning in once again. Like, subscribe, and share. Don't let this show be a secret. And a big shout out to Jason Reese, Mr. J-Bird Digital Arts for the new template. All right, here we go. So we're going to talk about Thunderbird. Thunderbird, the very first one, John Proudstar, not James, because James started off as Thunderbird, changed his name to Warpath. Different story. I'm going with the original X-Men. So far I've talked about Cyclops. I've talked about Nightcrawler, Wolverine, and Banshee. And I wanted to bring this character to light. So one, John Proudstar turned around and he made his appearance in 1975 in Giant Size X-Men issue number 1. He was pretty much recruited by Charles Xavier to save the original X-Men team as they were taken by the island of Krakoa, all right, and had to go there to rescue him. When we first see the character's wearing like the Canadian tuxedos, I call it. So he's wearing blue jeans, a blue shirt, and he's wrestling a buffalo, barehanded, chased him down, caught up to him, flipped him over, and wants to, Charles wants to recruit him. Now, John is very proud. He has a lot of distrust. He knows what his people have gone through present day and even prior to that, and stories he's heard from his great grandparents and so forth and so forth. On top of that, John's mom was part of a plot, I would say, where she was seen to be interviewed by a reporter, but he found out he's a geneticist. He was told, that his mom has cancer, and she ended up dying, but it was really more experiments that were done on her by the character named Edwin. So John, working with one of his friends, a reporter, finds out the true story, stops this, but of course now he's lost his mom, his dad's nowhere around, his dad's passed, so him and his brother James have to go and live with their grandmother, and she's the one that raises them. So at this point, John is very proud of his heritage. I mean, come on, you got to think Geronimo, right? Custer's Last Stand, there we go. That's the Apache Indians. The Apache Indians are warriors, and very proud warriors in, American history. So, look it up if you haven't heard. There's so much to go from their culture and everything that they brought to light over the years. And I think this would even be more so embodied in this character. Now, at this time, as I said, before the X-Men, he was a hot-tempered young man, and his powers kicked in when puberty kicked in. So when around 13, that's when he realized he had heightened senses and strength and speed and durability. He was just the Superman. And he used that, but he didn't know what to do with himself at one point. And then the Vietnam War comes out, right? Like Paul Hardcastle, that DJ that came up with the song 19. During the Vietnam War, he got recruited by the Marine Corps, and he worked from private all the way up to the rank of corporal. By the time the war ended, he comes back, he's home as a corporal, but he doesn't know what to do with himself. He's walking around on the reservation, no direction, nothing to go about it. So he's just kind of there, listless, doesn't know what to do next. But he has a sense of right and wrong and wants to protect his people and be the pride of his people at the same time. The Apaches, that's a huge thing for him. And then this is when Charles Xavier shows up in the picture and recruits him to join the X-Men. Now, at first, when he sees Charles, he's like, nope, not joining you. Don't trust the white man. And that's his words when he goes about it. And then Charles, not using his bang powers, just being a student of psychology, understands and goads him to joining the team. So John joins the team just to prove that he's better. But at the same time, he has a lot of insecurity. So he overcompensates with this obnoxious attitude. But on the inside, he feels like he's a loser. But on the outside, he just snaps and lashes out at people. That's his coping mechanism. So he joins the X-Men, saves the original team, comes back, and there we are. Now, I know for John Cockrum and Len Wein, who created the character, they created the character for a couple of reasons. One, their original vision was for John, or I say Thunderbird, Banshee, along with Sunfire, to take the exam to join the X-Men and flunk out. But they would say, man, we made this character, the costume is amazing. They fell in love with the costume as they designed the character more and more, and they didn't want to get rid of him after just one appearance. It would have been like a one and done. It would have been a waste. I like the fact that the new X-Men were international before the time. You got to think about this in 1975. There was a black person, an Indian, an Irishman, a Canadian, a Russian, a German, right? It was a Benetton commercial. All the colors of the rainbow across the world. So this was a cool thing back in 1975 and still stands true to today. And of course, in Japanese, sorry, Sunfire, right? And with John being a part of this thing, and he wanted to prove so badly, they're like, we like him, we like how we're writing him, but here's the problem. Can we have two? And what I mean by that, they were saying, well, we have two loudmouth, obnoxious characters on the team, Wolverine and Proudstar, Thunderbird. We can't have two, can we? So during their second mission, because the first mission was Giant Size X-Men, their second mission, the X-Men get a call from Beast. So that's right, McCoy, who used to be part of the X-Men. At this point, he left the X-Men. He tried to get rid of his mutation, made a formula, and mutated him further. So instead of trying to get rid of his mutation so he can just use his mind, he ended up getting blue fur. And then he took that and he joined the Avengers. So he becomes a full-fledged card-carrying Avengers member. Now, during this time, Count Nefaria, who fought the X-Men, I think in issue number 21, 22, comes back seeking revenge. He breaks into NORAD, and, they call it Valhalla, and he steals these weapons, and he's ready to destroy the world. He's holding the world at ransom. The Avengers get the call, but the Avengers are too busy on another mission. Hank McCoy is still there, and he reaches out to his team. He's like, well, the X-Men can't do it. Sorry, the Avengers can't do it, but the X-Men can. So he calls Xavier. He sees Xavier. He sees Cyclops. He sees a whole bunch of new people behind him because at this point, the original team pretty much left. They all said, hey, there's too many of us here. We all grown up now. We want to do our own thing. And they left, moved on. So now the team is there. And he's like, well, who's all these people? And he's like, don't worry about it, Hank. These are the X-Men. Not the X-Men I know. So he gives them the mission. They race off in the Blackbird to get there and to break in. They realize it's one of their old nemesis that they fought before. And John gets in, finds his way in. So Cyclops, the plane gets destroyed. They make their way down. But, sorry, and a part I missed is John clashes heads a lot with Cyclops. So just how Wolverine pushes his buttons, so does John. John turns around and calls him One Eye. And he's like, nope, call me my code name, Cyclops. He goes, no problem, One Eye. And during one of these training missions, like, in the danger room, he ends up getting hurt. Now, Cyclops feels bad because he feels that he's pushed him too much. But at the same time, Thunderbird feels bad because he feels like he messed up and he's letting him down. But instead of saying, hey, sorry, he turns around and he lashes out at Cyclops. But his internal thoughts are like, yeah, I guess no one wants a loser on the team. So they get this second mission. They go there to NORAD, Valhalla, as they call it, the mountain where the missile controls are all at for all of North America. And he gets in there and he's trying to prove himself. So he runs in very rash all the time. He overcompensates, as I said before. He's hot-tempered. He doesn't want to listen to anybody. Now, this is someone with military training, so he could have been even a bigger plus factor for the X-Men than how he was, but his character got the best of him. During this mission, he gets into one fight with the Ani-Men by Count Nefaria, who's leading them. He gets tossed into Banshee. Him and Banshee are knocked out. Most of this fight goes out. The X-Men have like 50 minutes to kind of stop this whole thing. He gets up. Oh my gosh. They wake up. They get there to the end. They see Count Nefaria. They don't realize he set the self-destruct, but they see Count Nefaria getting into a Harrier jet and he's taken off. And Thunderbird runs after him, jumps on top of the jet and starts punching the canopy, trying to break it. And Banshee flies off after him saying, hey, look, John, just jump off. We got this. No, he can't get away. Jump off. We got this. John just goes into a berserker rage. Because he's saying, I will not be told what to do. He just clearly just goes blackout angry, sees red, breaks the canopy, destroys the cockpit. The plane explodes. Now, we know the character is dead because a lot of times in Marvel, people always come back from death. But Charles Xavier is even communicating with him, with his telepathy, saying, John, jump off the plane. Banshee will catch you. Now, if you think logically, Banshee could have caught him, used this sonic scream to bring the plane down, and it all would have been good. But John wasn't listening to reason at this point. So the plane blows up, and both the Count and Thunderbird end up dying in this crash. Now, we know he's dead because even Charles is connected with him. So Charles hears his last thoughts. Charles feels the burning, the smoke, and everything that goes on there right until the end of Thunderbird, which is really sad. This is now issue number, 94, 95. The official second mission of the new X-Men. They've lost a member. After this, Scott is extremely hard on himself because he feels he messed up. Xavier feels bad he lost a student. The rest of them are kind of lost. The only one that kind of takes it in stride is Wolverine saying, hey, and Banshee. Banshee's like, well, it comes with the uniform. And Wolverine's like, hey, we're soldiers. So he's got a different mentality. This is the first time we've had a major death before Phoenix and everything like that with them. Here's where Marvel, to me, could have done differently. Seeing that the character represented the American Indian, for lack of a better term, they should have brought this character back. There would have been nothing wrong with having two hotheads on the team, because if you look at teams, a lot of them have more than one hot-headed person, one obnoxious person, and it would have been a great story arc. I would have loved to see Wolverine and Thunderbird develop that friendship, because I feel they would have. I don't think they would have knocked heads. They would have teased each other because they would have been competitive against each other, but they had similar backgrounds with military training along with pride. And they're both, one's Canadian, and one's Apache. Come on, man. You guys, it could have been the stories we should have been getting. So I don't think, they should have killed off Thunderbird. I think Thunderbird was one of my favorite characters from the get-go from this new team. And when he was gone, I was like, oh, come on now. Here's the second part. If they would have brought him back a lot sooner, they could have given him solo runs. They could have put this character on different arcs. That would have been extremely interesting. Even if they just made him quit the team and then brought him back here and there, I think it would have been great. Another missed storyline, in my opinion, and I know they just did it a couple of years ago, the whole storyline, Krakoa storyline, where the X-Men now left the mansion or living on the island of Krakoa. They have their own nation. When they die, they come resurrected. And of course, yes, John finally comes back to reality. He's come back a couple of times, but this time permanently. The missed part here is I think John should have been the guardian of Krakoa. And let me explain why. As an Apache warrior, they're very territorial. They wanted to defend their land. And I think John, without a purpose, might have been appreciative for being resurrected and wanted to be the guardian of it. So not so much as in being a part of the X-Men, but being, as I said, the guardian of the island. He could have worked with them and keep the relation, right? His first mission was going to free the X-Men from this island. Now this island has brought them back. He could have been the guardian. Regardless of the X-Men leave, they come back, he would have been their main security. And I think they would have had a great unison, the two of them working together, with John as this, he's a Marine. He's used to being out in the wild, in the bush, and that was his training. And of course, as Apache, you live off the land. This would have been a great storyline, in my opinion, if they would have brought the character back and given that direction. And then, of course, bring back in his younger brother, because he hasn't seen his brother in so long. So in the new special that it came out, the Giant Size, I think X-Men Giant Size X-Men special, the solo ones where they brought back Thunderbird, they put him in the blue turquoise, which represents a color that's represented for them. It means a lot of deep meaning, the blue turquoise for the Indians, and that's, we could have got more with the culture, more with some direction, and making him more of an environmental piece, but for this island who's a living soul, and that's how he would return his appreciation. Bring in his brother, Warpath. Let them have a conversation. He hasn't seen his brother in how long? The last time he saw his brother wasn't even a teenager. Now his brother is bigger, stronger, and faster than him, just like my brother. Okay, it's genetics, what it is. So those two, once again, a lot of these things with the storylines are always dealing with family. I believe this is where John could have come back. They did bring him live action into the TV show, The Gifted, and he was played by an actor. And I think that was great that they had him in that series, but I still think that he could have gone further as a character. There's a lot of history, things unsaid. He doesn't have to have your traditional missions, but an island that can move around different places, him being a guardian, yeah, Yeah, that's exactly a great starting off. And then they could have done a coalition of a lot of the Indian characters, right? Like the North American Indian characters, right? I mean, that's Dawnstar, his brother, Shaman from Alpha Flight, and the list goes on if we want to get, his daughter. So there's characters around. There's the way it is. Even in The Gifted, the TV show, even though it ran for like a season or two, he was a lead character. He was a leader. As I said, all I'm saying is there's a lot of history for this character. He didn't have a proper rogues gallery, but if he came back, maybe Count Nefaria came back, the Animen. These are people that he would have fought on a regular basis in storylines, and see him blending in as that, be the fourth of that team. And what I mean by that team, I'm talking Colossus, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, along with Thunderbird. Come on now. Those two would have been drinking buddies. They would have been teasing Colossus about, being underage. And can you picture the four of them on a mission? That's where the writing should be. As we always say, though, it's never too late. They can always bring him. He's already back. Why not wrap him up in these storylines? So first, I think we need to get writers who understand the character. I think there's storylines that can happen. I know the Krakoa, that whole piece is done, but is it? Never say never in Marvel. And on that note, remember everyone, like, subscribe, and share. Don't let this show be a secret. And this whole world was created by a pencil, a piece of paper, and lots of imagination. Keep on dreaming. I'm out.